real reason we get high. I would like to preface this writing by stating, the strong desire for pleasure is our natural state of being. However, this physical world is not our natural place of origin. Which means it is not capable of providing most of the things we previously experienced in the spirit realm, at least not to the same degree. While in this physical form, we are consistently chasing things we often experienced in full force in the spirit realm, by trying vehemently to reconnect to spiritual energies. Unfortunately, our physical bodies and minds aren't capable of handling the extreme frequencies involved in acquiring the full vibrations of pure pleasure. Until this important point is realized, all kinds of problems will continue occurring as a result of using drugs and getting high. In this physical world, humans will never be capable of experiencing what I call the spirit realm high, which is that strong feeling of pure pleasure without limits. It's apparent it exists, because we periodically get glimpses of this amazing feeling, yet unable to acquire it in full force. That's why so many people use drugs in excess. In the process of trying to achieve this ultimate feeling, many individuals consume drugs and alcohol to the point of blacking out, in an effort to increase their high, which often results in ODing. If there are any old schoolers out there, like myself, who have read the book, or may have seen the movie, The Call of the Wild, by Jack London. A story about a dog named Buck, who was stolen from his comfortable suburban environment only to be thrusted into a harsh world of turmoil and struggle. After enduring a series of situations in the wild, and its harsh environment, Buck manages to survive. After all was said and done, in spite of his opportunity to remain in a civilized environment with humans, he eventually began experiencing a deep yearning for the wild. Something was calling to him as though he was being reminded of a previous existence he had perhaps forgotten over a period of time. His instincts to return to the wild gradually grew more prevalent, eventually overriding any and all logics of remaining in the civilized world. He ultimately gave in to the call, returning to his wild natural habitat. The analogy and the moral to this story is just to show that humans are beginning to get that call from the spirit realm, in the same manner in which Buck the dog received his call, from the wild. The spirit realm is our real and natural habitat where extreme pleasures and blissfulness naturally exists without limits. It all boils down to one word: euphoria. The following list consists of a few words describing what euphoria means: elation, ecstasy, jubilation, bliss, joy, pure pleasure, etc. I could name about a dozen more adjectives describing this one word, but I think you get the point. I don't necessarily like using this phrase, but would you believe it if I told you that feeling high is our natural state of being? Well, at least in the spirit realm it is. I'd like to clarify that statement. We are starting to remember what it was like as young souls in the spirit realm, where euphoria is the norm. Where there is only pure joy, with no pain, no suffering, no discomforts. Of course, in the spirit realm, this state of being is not called getting high, or intoxicated. It's simply a natural state of euphoria. Can you imagine being in that state of mind, naturally, without drugs, 24/7? On many levels, it appears to me we are constantly trying to achieve that spirit realm high. I'd like to preface this next paragraph by stating, it is highly possible to achieve complete euphoria without the use of drugs, but that is unlikely to happen, at this stage of our spiritual development. It has become difficult for many of us to experience natural joy, because we have allowed too many negative emotions, such as hate, fear, and doubt to block the natural flow of this energy. As a result, we start to believe an outside stimulus is needed to achieve this. That is why once an individual discovers blissful feelings through drugs, it becomes the main source. In essence, the drug automatically becomes the impetus for feeling good. This causes the user to completely forget that he is capable of achieving that same high without the drugs, and its destructive side effects. Unfortunately, in this physical reality, our physical bodies aren't capable of handling the negative effects of drugs on a long-term basis. In spite of the physical dangers involved in abusing drugs, many people still continue to use. The strong desire to feel good, in and of itself is not wrong, because that is our true nature. In other words, universal mind designed everything in the universe to be pleasurable in one form or another, ultimately providing us with feelings of gratitude, satisfaction, joy, or well-being. Every aspect of the universe was created with that purpose in mind. It is no coincidence that most foods taste really good to us, and it is not just by chance that we are attracted to things that are beautiful and pleasurable. Again, all of this is because the God Source has created life to be enjoyable to the fullest extent. Life was created and designed to be enjoyed without limits, by a generous Creator. Take a look at the way we feel when we possess lots of money. This gives us a strong feeling of freedom, success, exhilaration, and of course, euphoria. It's all based on feeling good. I hope you see my point about euphoria. It's a natural feeling which resonates within all of us. God, the Creator, is pure joy. Therefore, joy cannot create anything but joy and happiness, bringing forth euphoria with no boundaries. Just reflect on how good it feels when you take a bite of your favorite food, or how amazing you feel when you experience a sexual encounter with someone you are attracted to. Every one of these situations boil down to pleasure and feeling good. This is the foundation in which life was created and based on. The feeling of euphoria is so powerful and familiar to our inner being, that it is sometimes capable of making us ignore other elements in life. In other words, once we indulge in drugs and getting high, this seems to trigger some form of familiarity from deep within. That's where the problems begin for most of us. The feelings we get from that hit of crack, that snort of coke, that shot of heroin, or that glass of alcohol begins to override all logic because it immediately gets us back in touch with that long-lost, but familiar feeling we once experienced in the spirit realm. I'd like to touch briefly on addiction, by tying it into the subject matter. I know this sounds weird to most of us, but certain forms of addictions are a natural part of our existence, and very important to our survival. However, I'm referring to healthy addictions, such as our addiction to food, to water, or certain feelings. Addiction is a natural part of our psyche to let us know when the body is running low on a certain element which is needed for survival. But we have to be careful because the body can be tricked into believing it needs a certain element for its survival. That's where it becomes a form of addiction. I'll talk about that shortly. I will try to make that concept a bit clearer by referencing another one of my audiobooks entitled The True Meaning of Addiction. In that book, I describe how our bodies react when it lets us know that we need more minerals or vitamins by registering as hunger. Hunger is considered a healthy addiction, because it lets our body know when it needs nourishment. Thirst is an addiction, because it lets us know when our body needs hydration. When our bodies acquire too much of something and needs to eliminate it, we are alerted by a personal alarm from the brain. In essence, the true meaning of addiction is an alarm sounding off, to let us know what our bodies need to stay healthy and to survive. Okay, now, let's talk about this process, and how the body can be tricked into believing it needs a certain substance, such as a particular drug. This process translates as addiction. Let me expound on that thought. When we ingest certain harmful drugs into our body's defense system reacts immediately by sending antibodies to the rescue. This is an attempt to eliminate the substance by rejecting it, usually through extreme bowel movements or vomiting. If we ingest the same drug again, and manage to survive, the body tries again to destroy or eliminate it. After several doses of this substance, the body goes into a state of submission towards the substance, then eventually embraces it. The substance enters and settles into the biological area of the brain, which sends signals to the body when it's running low on something necessary for survival, such as food, water, minerals, and vitamins, etc. After the drug has successfully assimilated within the brain, this means that an alarm has been assigned to this drug, as with thirst and hunger. It's at this point that the body has been tricked into believing this element is needed for survival. So, now as the drug begins to wear off, the body automatically sends the alarm, which is perceived as a craving. Presto, you are now at the early stages of addiction to this substance. I realize this is a simplified explanation of how addiction occurs, but I think you get the idea of what happens in the case of harmful addictions. The main reason I've included the addiction segment is because drug and alcohol abuse has reached epidemic proportions. I feel the reason for this epidemic is because more and more individuals are tuning into their eternal and internal instincts. We are no strangers to euphoria. The reason we feel the desire to get high is because we are trying to reach that state of bliss we once experienced when we were in the spirit realm. We are spirit beings first and foremost. That's who we truly are. That is our natural state of being. Remember, everyone, it's all about feeling good, which is our natural heritage. In closing, I would like to say, if this concept doesn't make sense to you, I suggest you check out my audiobook All Things Connected, on my website, at eddiereddick.com, or on YouTube, where I explain in detail about a group of young souls who initially resided exclusively in the spirit realm hundreds of thousands of years ago. They resided in a world where they experienced pure joy with no limits, but through an experimental project, fueled by curiosity, they began projecting their consciousness outside of the spirit realm, creating temporary realities. Some created and settled in a dense realm which eventually becomes known as the physical dimension. Unfortunately, after migrating to the physical realm and after engineering physical bodies to accommodate the physical world, they were faced with certain limits and boundaries due to the nature of dense physical matter, which eventually became somewhat of a detriment to their spiritual development. Those young souls I'm referring to are you and me, and we are beginning to remember many things from that amazing realm we migrated from. This concept is completely covered in my video book All Things Connected. Check it out, if you get a chance. I wrote that particular book in an attempt to show that everything we do in the physical world is a mere attempt at trying to recreate what happens in the spirit realm. We are getting glimpses of what and who we truly are. In the spirit world, our true nature is to experience pure feelings of euphoria with no boundaries. We are currently living in a realm where we have lost touch with this amazing feeling. Slowly, we are starting to remember that blissful feeling. Attempting to replicate it is the reason we feel the urge to get high. We may never be able to recreate that spirit realm high while in this physical realm, but the good news is that a great level of euphoria can be achieved naturally without drugs. But first we must get rid of all the obstacles and distractions standing in our way, like fear, hate, resentment and other negative energies. I hope this writing has shed a little bit of clarity on why we feel the need to get high. Thanks for listening. Peace and love to everyone. This is actually the end of the book, but I've added an excerpt from another one of my books entitled The True Meaning of Addiction. You can continue listening or reading if you'd like, or you can stop at this point. This segment is just to say there is always hope, and a chance of recovery for anyone who is addicted to anything in life. If you are addicted to substances in life that are detrimental, just know, in society, you will be stigmatized as a crackhead, druggie, junkie, alcoholic or a bad irresponsible human being. You are none of these things. What you are is a beautiful, pure spirit being, who is merely the recipient of a natural action, created by nature, necessary for survival. The key is to know, without a doubt, through meditation, prayers, interventional support, and the knowledge of spiritual laws, you can overcome and rectify any harmful element in your body, your mind, and your life, by making a conscious choice to do so. It is not your fault if you become addicted to something harmful. However, you are definitely accountable if you choose to remain addicted to it. I hope my attempt to explain the nature of addiction from a spiritual, universal, and biological aspect will be an encouragement for everyone to approach this dire situation in a more practical manner. It is possible, through proper information, love, and compassion, to overcome the harmful addictions, which are destroying the human spirit all around this world. Let's utilize that amazingly beautiful natural high, that universal mind has unselfishly instilled, within every one of us. Remember, addiction is not a negative thing, and not only synonymous with drugs. It is something that was created and designed by God to enhance the survival of our bodies and minds, and life itself. Once again, thanks for listening to this writing, which is my attempt to clarify the real reason we identify so vehemently with getting high. Peace and love to you.